Good evening, everyone. It is Sketchbook Saturday. You all hopefully know what that means. That means we're going back to the sketchbook once again. Sorry to keep you guys on the hook for quite so long. Thanks, Gamer J, for the follow. Let's get an actual picture up here. Thanks for the follow. I hope you stick around. We're gonna get started. It's a late start since I didn't give a whole lot of notice as to when I was going live today, so just got done with the sketchbook drawing. Yeah, that's cool. Sketchbook Saturday is, that's my thing, but it's not only my thing. I'm sure I'm not the first, and hopefully it only grows from here, really. But thanks for coming. We're gonna get started, at least with some pencil art, just because I feel like I've stalled a little bit too much already. Things are a little bit chaotic today. That's really my fault, but we're gonna get back on track in short order, and I hope you stick around. And if you'd like to draw along with me, feel free. That's what it's all about anyway, really. Put everything I need in order. And try to find a pencil here. Any pencil, really. I usually keep it more than one for this exact reason. We'll go with this one for now. Oh wait, here's the other one. It's on the floor. Ugh. That's a wonderful place for it. Anyway. The cord from my headphones over here, just so it's not bothering me. There we go. Oh yeah. Get my face out of here and over here. Let's get started. Today I wanted to, because I feel like I don't do nearly enough hip-hop related artwork. And I do have love for hip-hop music, so I'm going to pay some tribute to MF Doom, who apparently passed away in October, but the guy is like so reclusive and so, kind of mysterious that it wasn't confirmed by anybody that knew him until New Year's Eve, unfortunately. See what kind of justice we can do here. start looking for everything that I normally draw with. This is a problem with not planning ahead. Use this for now. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I've been doing it for a long time, so. A lot of these straight lines and some of the curved ones too I'm gonna straighten out in the next phase here. Just trying to get this basic shape over here as accurate as possible, as usual, as I usually try to. This is going to be very tricky, so I'm going to have to choose my shading very carefully and stick to it very faithfully. once again, you gotta cast out all of these superfluous shapes, because if not, they're gonna end up confusing me later. Yeah, a lot of this is going to get done in the inking, I think. Let's see. This is gonna look pretty rough for now, but I know where it's going. So, as I'm so fond of saying, trust me, trust the process. I spend too much time on the penciling stage, but I also want to make sure I've got enough pencil artwork to work with for the next step, which I think we're gonna get started on. What is the next step, you might ask? I'm glad you asked that, even if you didn't. Sorry about that. I should probably not do that on the stream, but had to take care of something pressing. Apologies. Should hopefully not happen again. Where all my big Sharpies go? That's not cool. I have to go looking for those again. This is the most disorganized stream I've had since the last disorganized stream I've had. Oh well. Okay. This is where we hopefully turn this overflowing paintbrush or brush pen to my advantage. And with my luck, it's probably gonna be out of ink already. Not exactly. Okay, I can work with this. So eventually I'm going to tighten all these into some straighter lines, because this is meant to be a very angular steel mask. save some of this now. Let's see. Probably doing this a little bit too early in the process, but I actually want to tighten some of this up so I can know where I need to do and how I need to do it. And here's my eraser I was looking for before, which is wonderful, isn't it? Oh, start with you. See if this one's got any juice left in it. All right. I have a feeling I took that part, this other king size Sharpie somewhere else. Somewhere where I'm gonna have to get up and go look for it momentarily. That should do it. start doing some of the metallic sort of shine effects on this mask. And the biggest challenge for this sort of thing is do not get carried away. It's very easy to get carried away with this because it looks really cool when you get it right. But there's a fine line between getting it right and overdoing it. Let's not do that again. haven't talked a whole lot about Doom in particular, just because while I was a fan of his music, I don't necessarily feel like the most qualified person in the world to discuss his music at length. You know, I've listened to him since, on and off since the second Victor Vaughn album, Venomous Villain. I went back and listened to the earlier stuff of his Operation Doomsday, and actually just listened to that like earlier today, preparing for the stream. In a lot of ways, he was an odd cat, but he had a purity about him as far as the type of hip hop music he produced and he championed. I would just recommend, if you dig on hip hop music, and especially if you dig on sort of lyricist, intensive, sort of underground East Coast hip hop, or if that's something you think you might want to explore, check out MF Doom, check out, Operation Doomsday, check out any of the Victor Vaughn albums, which is, MF Doom was the alter ego, Victor Vaughn was kind of the alter ego of his alter ego, which was part of a lot of the different concepts that he would come up with for a lot of his albums. He collaborated with a lot of other artists that I'm a fan of as well. He did tracks with Aesop Rock. He did tracks with the Gorillaz. There's a lot of cool stuff out there. That's why I kind of I tend to roll my eyes a lot at a lot of people who just kind of throw up their hands and say, there's no good music anymore, and everything was better in my day, and all of that misguided nostalgia goggle crap. You really don't have a whole lot of time for that. Good stuff has always been where you find it. The problem is sometimes finding it is a little bit harder in some cases than others. Used to be people of right around my generation had MTV, and MTV put it all right in your face, and you remember growing up with it, and that's always, and I talked about this last week, that's why it's probably, a lot of it is probably a little bit better than you remember it, because you grew up with it and you have that connection to it. That doesn't mean there was more good stuff when you were coming of age. It just means that the stuff that you saw when you were coming of age was what you thought was good. So I encourage people to just kind of put the work in, and if you're into something, if you're into one particular kind of music, I'm willing to bet that that type of music is still being made somewhere by someone. You just might have to do a little bit more legwork to find it, I always tell people, like, my favorite genre of music is hip-hop music, but my absolute least favorite genre of music is bad hip-hop music. And and depending on who it is. Some people want to say that hip-hop music peaked at one particular time period, and I kind of tend to think that's a load of crap. There's a lot of hip-hop music that I'm not a big fan of these days, and there's a lot of hip-hop music that I wasn't a big fan of even in my day. So I tended to concentrate on the stuff that I liked and seek out the stuff that I liked, and it was there. It may not necessarily have been on the surface, but it was there. And that's really all I got left to say about that, honestly. If you want to be an advocate for dope music, get out there and look for it. You look hard enough, it'll be there. Mm-hmm. There's not a whole lot I can offer as far as tips on how to on drawing shiny metal. Everybody has a slightly different way of doing it. Hello, Lavillian. Thank you for coming. Hope you stick around. For now we're drawing MF Doom. Rest in peace. This is going to be a Doom themed Sketchbook Saturday. So we're actually running at least a double feature tonight. There may be other things that I draw once I'm done here, which I'm almost done here, really. And I hope you stick around for the rest of it. Now, as I was saying, the biggest thing to remember, of my limited things that I can really say about drawing metal, reflections on metal or drawing sort of metallic details, is that most of the shine on metal is distorted reflection. And it's important to remember that. And as such, metal reflections will follow a lot of the same rules that light and shadow do. They're going to be darker. They might be darker the farther away you are from the light. They may be more pronounced the farther away you are from the light, until they eventually obscure and fade into the shadows. Now, that's not to say that. That's not to say. Oh, thank you for the follow. Oh, and thank you for the raid as well. Appreciate it. We're wrapping up Doom here. We're wrapping up one Doom. We're going to get started on another one very soon. So the stream is by no means over. Thank you guys, everybody who's dropped by. I am Benjamin J. And I am an artist and an illustrator, somewhat by trade, but mostly by choice. And I draw all kinds of stuff. I draw comics, I draw portraits, I paint. Today, we're doing Sketchbook Saturday, which is something that I've been doing for a very, very long time, which is I have a sketchbook. And every Saturday, no matter what, I always draw something in it. Sometimes it's one thing, sometimes it's more than one thing. Today's gonna be more than one thing. We already did MF Doom. Rest in peace. Passed away in October. But he was so kind of reclusive and remote that word about him only just surfaced about a week ago, and I was a fan of his, and it's really unfortunate that he passed, because he was a really great artist in the hip-hop community, and I don't get to do. Yeah, MF Doom died, unfortunately. Apparently he passed away in October. Sorry to be the one to have to tell you that, but that's what I've been hearing. I haven't heard anything discounting that since, in the past week, so I'm gonna have to go with it being true. Apparently his family released a statement of sorts. No, I don't, I wouldn't solely take Google's word for it, but, like I said, his family supposedly made a statement that he had passed on at the end of October, so. Oh, thanks for the follow, Vivian. Appreciate it very much. And, we're gonna finish this up. And I think since I've got the raid group here, I was gonna take a break, but I'm instead gonna jump right into the next thing. And today is the 9th. The unfortunate thing about this artwork was that I got done with it a little bit too soon. I love, my fallback and my favorite media is black and white drawing and ink drawing. So I think I ran through this one a lot quicker than I expected. That's okay. I think we can, especially since I had more than one thing planned. Let me do something here. Do a little bit more details here, just because I want to differentiate the face underneath the mask and the mask itself. Inktober must be, to be perfectly honest, I don't do a whole lot of the Inktober stuff. I'm not big on Inktober. I don't think I've ever done that before. A lot of people ask me about that, and I just say like I draw enough throughout the rest of the year. I don't really draw particularly any more or less during the month of October. So that's just me. I appreciate Inktober, and I appreciate anything that gets that gets people drawing more. It's just not specifically my thing. So let's wrap this up and get on to the next thing. I said today was going to be Doom themed. We already started with MF Doom. And we're going to jump into the character who basically gave him his name. The one, the only, the original Victor Von Doom. I'm gonna get a few of my here's my pencil. One thing you'll notice about me is that I'm very absent-minded, and I tend to this is probably not, I'm probably not the only one that does this either, but I tend to be very scattershot about where I put my art supplies, which is why I tend to have multiple of all different art supplies available to me at all times. We're gonna jump into it, and one thing I love about drawing any Jack Kirby created character is that I get to get really sort of forceful and really let loose with the sort of bold angles and bold lines. And as I'm fond of saying, it tends to not look like a whole lot at first, but it will. Very shortly. Dr. Dooms from 616 never got to experience much of Kirby's work. Well, if by 616 you mean like the mainstream, non-Ultimate Marvel universe, that's something different here. I'm not entirely too clear on what you're referring to, but 616, my understanding, is the main Marvel universe that Kirby and Stan Lee actually created together for the most part. Yeah, I'm gonna give us somewhat broader stance here. I like this a little bit better. And that gets to read the original Fantastic Four, so I highly encourage it. It's a lot of fun. I've got some trades, some trade paperbacks. They're available digitally. They're pretty accessible. I think Marvel's ebook service has all of that stuff available. So if it's something if it's something you think you might get in, you might want to get into, I'd at least suggest checking it out. I think I'm going to do some extreme force perspective here instead of what I had planned originally for about 5 seconds before I decided that was kind of a weak pose that I didn't want for not Dr. Doom of all people. Dr. Doom, you keep the stance wide-legged and focused. I haven't done a full-bodied sketch in the sketchbook in a while either, so there's that. That's nice. I think I'm going to add a slight bit of color to this. Not a whole lot, but just enough to make it interesting. this mask a little bit smaller. The face on the mask a little bit smaller. Make sure I remember not to get in the way of my own camera. Since I love me some deep and pronounced shadows, we're gonna do just that here. We're gonna throw most of this whole mask in shadow, because I actually think the Doctor Doom mask is actually incredibly creepy when you only see parts of it. This hood. This is what happens. I get way too carried away drawing clothing sometimes, drawing hood, flowy clothing like hoods and capes and stuff. It's sometimes you get so carried away, just putting it down on paper, you kind of forget to think about how it's actually supposed to, how to actually make it look like what it's supposed to look like in the way that you've already set up everything else within the same drawing. I'm not sure if that makes a whole lot of sense the way I just said it, but going. And some of my favorite parts. Yeah, definitely a lot of room to get carried away here. And that's good in some ways. Because if you're not getting a little bit carried away, you're not really having any fun. And then, really, what's the point? But you also, to some extent, have to keep it under control. Not too much control. Too much control ain't good either, but some. Now, all of these fingers in here, they look terrible. But the idea is to get them on the page first and fix them later. The problem that a lot of people run into is that they're so afraid of making mistakes before they've even done anything at all that nothing ends up getting done. And that's a killer. Especially when it comes to art. Pencils have erasers. Paint can be painted over. If you screw it up, you can fix it. But you won't know whether or not you've screwed up, or to what extent you've screwed up, and to what extent something needs fixing, until you put something down on a page first. So I'm going to leave a lot of that for later. Because it's all getting inked over anyway. We're going to add some color to this. Just a little bit. I mean, probably. Doom works with a fairly limited color palette anyway, so let's get it going. clear some of this out here, just so you guys can see what I'm working on. Clear this off so I can mix some new color. Some of this is getting inked over in a minute anyway. Probably gonna come back with the markers and touch this all up a little bit later, but right now I'm just kind of like getting the color down, let it dry a little bit, and then come back to it. Go into this energy here of dunes. Like that. I knew I made a good choice getting this paint, getting this particular color, this shade of yellow. Gotta come up with a million uses for it so far. I think it also rather complements this green that I got going on with Doom's uniform. Let's make some semblance of a darker color though for the green of Doom's cape. You never want to forget the cape. The inside of the cape anyway. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm gonna have to apply that to the rest of this. That's okay. That's probably necessary. Alright. That'll work. Now. Now, let's get a metal color going. I'm using some water that I have not cleaned since probably since Tuesday, the last time that I streamed. Let's lighten this up. Let's lighten that up. Yep, that'll do. That'll do quite nicely, actually. About them as much color as I want to put on the face mask for now, because a lot of that's going to be shadowy, and what's not I'm going to use marker for. Keep that open as well. Now contrast this a little bit too. Give this a bit of a background color as well. Just something that was left, that I've left okay. We'll take a very quick break. We're gonna come back and finish this one off. Don't go anywhere, please. I will return momentarily. Well, that's probably going to be annoying a little while. So what I'm going to have to do so that I can actually work on this surface here is, luckily I keep a clip over here. Sometimes what happens when you watercolor paint. Forgot to look for that other Sharpie. I guess I'm gonna be right back once again. Hold on. Alright, turns out it was on the floor the whole time. At least I hope this is it. See? There. Let's find out. That's it, alright. Okay. Let's go for the rest of this. Oof, yeah, that was definitely a new Sharpie. No mistaking that smell. Not quite. Yeah, that's more like it. Again, doing a lot of setting up for later. See? Yeah, where was this? Where was the flow of this marker? About half an hour ago. I think the remainder of this demands that I start working on this Kirby Crackle. Who am I to argue? Also need the assistance of a much smaller Sharpie in this case. once again, I'm gonna try not to get too carried away. It's to be very effective on many levels, and to do that, can't get carried away by any one tool. So this is also somewhat of a leftover from Green Week, because Dr. Doom was a character that I was considering doing for Green Week, but there are a few other much more green characters that needed attention. And I said I'd have a few friends of mine who'd be very mad at me if I did a green themed week, a green character themed week, and didn't do the Incredible Hulk. Well, those same friends would be doubly mad at me if I did a green themed week and I did a Marvel character who was not the Incredible Hulk. Let us see. Is this gonna work? I haven't used this one in a while. Yeah, that'll work. Hey, Google boy, what's up? How's it going? We're in time for Sketchbook Saturday. My Doom-themed Sketchbook Saturday. Was drawing MF Doom in black and white earlier. Rest in peace. And now we're doing Dr. Doom in color. Thank you for dropping by. Hope you stick around for a little while. It's gonna start getting interesting when I start inking all of these parts that I've already colored. Yeah, shame about MF Doom. It's even more of a shame that that nobody found out about it until like 2 months later. But he's a really private guy, so I'm not too terribly surprised. I seem to find good rappers when they're gone. Well, just make sure they're never forgotten. Make sure you keep bumping their work, their music, and they'll never fully be gone. That's what I do. Best way you can remember an artist after they pass is to make sure that their work lives on. And that's true of all kinds of artists. I'll show you the earlier. This is the MF Doom artwork that I did earlier. And I'll post this up on my social medias a little bit later on Twitter and Instagram. My main forte in music, I listen to all kinds of stuff. I listen to just about everything. I don't follow anything too intensely, but it's all good for me. I said earlier, my favorite music genre is hip-hop music, but my least favorite genre is bad hip-hop music. So you take that however you want it. And everybody's got their own opinion about what bad hip-hop music is, so, I appreciate that. I'm glad you're digging it. Hope you stick around, because I stream pretty regularly and I'm always drawing new and different things, and I try to mix it up as much as I can, as often as I can. Did I just drop something? I couldn't even tell. Let's see. I think it's starting to come together. There's some things that need to happen first before it really comes together. We're working towards it. Let's not get lazy here. Let's do this the right way. Crazy from a non-artist perspective to see the process you use. Yeah, I've heard that before. I'm a little bit too close to the process to really see it any other way than the way that I see it. But it's I'm glad you're interested. I'm glad it's interesting to you. And I try to make it as interesting as I can. You know, given that it's compared to some other things that you might see on Twitch, compared to like, you know, video gaming and that sort of thing. This is a slower process that might require a little bit more patience or a little bit more observation and concentration. But I think there's an audience out there in Twitch land for the type of thing that I do and the type of thing that a lot of my friends are on here on Twitch doing. And I'm looking to find people that dig it, and I'm looking to get my work in front of them and get them following and get them tuning in and hopefully getting a community going. Dial this back a little bit because once again I started using these larger brushes and stuff. I always admired art, but it's usually a very niche style. There's not many artworks I find that interesting. Like I said, the style you're going for just looks really good to me. Well, that's appreciate that. And I'm glad you're digging the style that I'm showing you here. It's like Junji Ito mangas because of the way he did the artwork. You're gonna have to. That name sounds very, very familiar, so I'm almost positive I would know that name if you tell me the work that he does, the manga that he does. It's like on the tip of my tongue. I'm trying to remember if it's what I think it is. I don't want to say the wrong thing, but I'm pretty sure I'm familiar with that artist. Might just be that the name is escaping me at the moment. Matter of fact, let me look that up real quick, just because it's bugging me. Oh God, Uzumaki. Yeah, I knew. That name sounded familiar. Fans are horrifying all our creepy images, which is topped off by the disturbing images. Yeah. I googled his name. The first thing that came up was Uzumaki, and I'm like, oh yeah, now it's all coming back to me. I really need to. I've sort of skimmed parts of Uzumaki, and I really need to like watch it. I really need to I really need to read it from the beginning, because I've been told from people who don't even dig manga aren't even that big on horror that it's one of the creepiest things they've ever seen. Like, that manga is one of the creepiest things they've ever seen. Yeah, I'm also a big horror fan too, so if you look under my previous artwork, a lot of the stuff that I still have up in that slideshow is from October, when I was doing almost exclusively horror themed drawing and painting. Any favorite horror films? My favorite, it's dependent on, what your criteria for what you would call a horror film is, but my favorite horror movie is The Silence of the Lambs, because it's my favorite movie of all time. Not everybody would necessarily consider that a straight-up horror movie, but I do. Tale of Two Sisters. I've seen some. Other than that, I did in October, I did a lot of John Carpenter themed artwork, because John Carpenter is one of my favorite horror filmmakers. I love pretty much everything Carpenter made in the 80s, and even a few things that he made in the 90s, even though that's kind of where whatever contract he had with the devil to keep producing hit horror movies kind of most likely expired sometime around the 90s. Horror movies don't necessarily mean jump scares and ghosts, so yeah, definitely class Silence of the Lambs is one. Yeah, that's how I feel about it. I don't know if you dig on Stephen King. I'm a big Stephen King fan. Stephen King he mentioned a couple of things that have stuck with me. He did a nonfiction book about horror and about horror movies of his time, called Dance Macabre, and he said something along the line. I'm gonna paraphrase it. I suppose I could, the book is right behind me on the bookshelf, but I don't feel like getting up. I'll try to paraphrase it. He said something along the lines of, at first I'll try to terrify And if I can't terrify, then I'll try to horrify. And if I can't horrify, then I'll go for the gross out. So my understanding of that is, terrify, to terrify is words or imagery that sticks with you. It's not necessarily immediately scary, but the more you think about it, the scarier it is. That's what, to terrify means to me. To horrify, to me, I figure it's a little bit more immediate. Jump scares, horrifying creatures, things that just immediately get a horrified reaction, get a scared reaction out of you. And then the gross out's pretty self-explanatory, and he's done plenty of that too, to some great effect. None of those things are necessarily, not any one of those is necessarily better than the other. In my opinion, I think it kind of depends on what you're trying to go for, or what you're, what kind of effect you want. You want to accomplish, what kind of reaction you're trying to get out of your audience, out of the, whoever's reading, watching your work. Never read any Stephen King books, but the original miniseries, It. Yep. And it is a much scarier book than it is a movie. I'll say that. Like the miniseries, if you're talking about the original early 90s miniseries, that's a very good miniseries for what it was. It was, made for TV. It was limited by a lot of the things that you could, it was limited by a lot of TV related things. The theatrical movies that just came out did a better job of doing a lot of things that they couldn't do in that miniseries, especially the ending. But even so, the book is way scarier. The book, as much of a Stephen King fan as I am, there are very few of his books that straight up scared me. It scared me. It was scary to me. There are still parts of it that I think about that are like, that kind of, I'm kind of like, that's uncomfortable to think about. Definitely recommend, if you're interested in actually reading the book, definitely recommend that. But I also think that, the original miniseries is underrated in a lot of ways, especially the cast that they had. Those were like, 90s, late 80s, early 90s TV all-stars of their day. What else we got here? Just committed to reading a book that a friend has had and seen how many pages it has. I don't know if I'm ready for that. If you're not sure you're ready to read the book itself, you might consider trying to get the audiobook. That's another way of doing it. I mean, everybody's different. Everybody has their preferences for what they, how they want to consume certain things, but it's just a suggestion. be surprised. I don't know if you've ever tried doing audiobooks before, but I was surprised when, the couple of times that I've tried it, how much I was able to get into it, just, not so much differently than reading. And it's one of those things that, you can actually do in much different situations, in situations where you would not be able to read a book. If you drive, you can listen. You can listen to an audiobook while you're driving. If you or if you're a public transportation or bike riding person like I am, you can listen while you're doing those things. We're in a really, the world we live in is really kind of, not a whole lot of time to be sitting down and doing, unfortunately, not a whole lot of time to sit down and do things like reading a book. There are ways around it. Suppose your whole country is in lockdown. If there was ever a time to read a book like that, it's now. Yeah, well, worked for me. Where exactly in the world are you right now? If you're comfortable giving that information out. Alright, we're gonna tone this up. We're gonna add some other tones to this gray. Northwest of the UK. Yeah, I haven't been keeping up too terribly much, but yeah, I have heard that the UK and certain parts of Europe are having to lock back down again. I don't know if you're having quite as much of the same problem that we're having in the States right now, but it seems like you're having somewhat of the same problem of people not really doing what they should be doing in terms of protecting themselves and protecting others from our buddy the pandemic that's still going around, that everybody seems to have pretended has gone away. Is that close to correct? Or how close am I? It's our new sitcom now, Our Pal the Pandemic. I got a fair share of people just decided they like the pandemic life, I suppose. Certainly a lot of that here in America. And I feel like a lot of this could have been over and done with if people had been more willing to be minorly inconvenienced earlier this, last year than majorly inconvenienced now. But I suppose that was not an option for some people, or they thought it wasn't. And We're gonna end up having to deal with what comes of that. Okay. Now I'm starting to like how this is looking. Not quite. Oh wow, this is tremendously dry. I know I got a dark green in here somewhere. The question is it dark enough? And also, where is it? I suppose I have to use this for now. I don't think this was the dark green I was thinking of. What did it do? This lockdown just gets over and done. No more coming out of lockdown and going back in. Just have one giant lockdown like Australia did. Yeah, I mean, Australia had the benefit of already being naturally cut off from, from the outside world to a certain extent, so it was a little bit easier for them to do it the rest of the way. Australia, if they really want to close the country, all they got to do is close the ports. And if you do that effectively, then you pretty much close the country. Other places in the world, particularly my country, it's a little bit more difficult than that. Not impossible, but difficult. Yeah. Well, yeah. On top of Australia, pretty much seal it, like closing off the country to the outside world. They also followed all the lockdown guidelines. Their people didn't, come up with a million excuses as to why they shouldn't, follow some basic health guidelines. They didn't overthink it. They didn't get offended. They didn't get, otherwise pissy about having to do it. They followed the science, and they did it, and now they're done. Imagine that. Imagine that. Okay, what else needs doing here? Actually, where's my other pen? Where's my ballpoint pen? Here it is. Okay. As I was saying before, shine on metal is basically just distorted reflections. So as long as you create the hint of that, the indication of that, it goes a long way towards providing the visual effect, the visual shorthand that you need. Figured since the UK is such a small island, it would just be easy to overcome. But apparently, the amount of dumb people in Britain is enough to keep the pandemic alive. Yep. And I'm similarly surprised by the number of dumb people here in the States. And if you're anything like me, you, upon closer reflection, I was surprised at first, and then upon closer reflection, I was less surprised by how many dumb people there are in my country. I don't know if you've had a similar moment of reflection. There's plenty to go around. Plenty of dumb and plenty of dumb people to go around. Thin this out a little bit. Maybe. Yeah, pull this up. Cover this up because the beginning and ending of that cape is looking kind of half-assed, and I want to more clearly define it. What was the whole deal with the storming that book? I literally have no clue what happened to being so detached from politics, and especially American politics. I will give you the as much of an abridged version of that as possible. It's a little bit. It's not extremely complicated, and I don't want to get too much into the political ramifications of it. It is a very big deal. Some people who, by all accounts, were kind of stirred up by a speech that our president gave that they were in attendance for. At least, our president for the next, I think it's 12 days now. They decided they were going to storm our Capitol building in Washington, D.C., which is where all of our lawmakers, when they're not busy arguing amongst themselves and wasting a lot of time, that's where they gather to do the business of running the country. At least that's the ideal situation for that. I think what is the House of Parliament in the UK might be the closest thing to that. Probably a similar enough idea. So a couple of, conservative-leaning folks who got stirred up and have had way too much time on their hands and were significantly deluded enough decided that they were going to break into the Capitol building. Some of them possibly with the intent to take hostages. A lot of them were photographed with, with firearms and with tools that would be, that could be used to restrain people. They basically caused a mass evacuation of the building. Most of the, all of the government officials managed to evacuate to safety. A few people were hurt. A few people were killed. I think at least one police officer sustained injuries that he later died from. And it was a very ugly situation all around that probably could have been prevented, but may. But the question now is, whether or not some people wanted it to happen and encouraged it. And a big question is if one of those people who wanted it to happen and encouraged it was our current president. And that remains to be seen. And I suppose we'll find out. Hopefully we'll find out soon enough. So much more serious than is being laid out to be here. Well, probably because, for all the intent, for, whatever the people that crashed the building intended to do, they really accomplished very little. They disrupted, in the grand scheme of things, they disrupted a session of Congress, which was later reconvened later that same day. And they, they continued their business, which was actually to certify the results of the election and to make sure that our next, incoming president, that his election was made official and recognized as official by the lawmaking body of our country. So they disrupted that. In terms of how bad, I suppose, in terms of how bad it could have been, it wasn't that bad. The implications of what it could have been if the people who had participated in it had gotten their way is much more frightening and much more far-reaching. The people involved had every intention of, causing as much disruption and as much chaos as they possibly could. And the reason why it wasn't worse than it was, and it was bad, a couple of people were killed. It was, can't take anything away from that. But the reason why it wasn't as bad as it was is because the whole thing was, was led by a lot of poorly organized and really, not very bright fanatics and people who sort of deluded themselves into thinking they were doing, they were doing something, they were fulfilling some grand patriotic duty, when really they were attempting a very half-assed overthrow of our government that was doomed to fail. The reason why it wasn't as bad as it could have been is because the people responsible for it were really dumb and really inept, to put it mildly. So I'm quite glad it wasn't, as tragic as what had actually happened was. I am glad that it wasn't worse. I am glad that it wasn't as bad as what they set out for it to be. Just hope things don't escalate. That is the question now. That certainly is the question now. I hope things don't escalate either. That remains to be seen. Let's have just a little bit more fun with this. I'm going to add a little bit more details onto this Kirby Crackle here. You saw my white pen, which I was using for the highlights here. I'm going to use this yellow marker. Maybe not this exact one, because it's really hard to see what the hell is going on with it. Let's see if the fluorescent one is any better, even though I know from experience now that fluorescent marker really doesn't scan very well. Yeah, that's not going to work too well either. What else we got? Fluorescent orange. That'll do. It's definitely orange, but it's not opaque enough. That's unfortunate. Let's shake this up a little bit more and see if that'll thicken up the... Yeah, it did. Okay, that's good. I can work with that. Envy being in the States right now. Being in the States, like everywhere else, some places are good, some places aren't. A lot of what you see, or from here, is Not that it's not something that needs to be worried about, and that it needs to, that things need to change, but it's not the whole country. I'd like to think that there are problems, and they need to be dealt with, and they need to be dealt with soon. But most of us out here are just, regular people that are just, trying to get by, and if we're lucky, maybe even get ahead, just like anywhere else. last thing I think I'm gonna do before we call it an evening, I'm gonna darken this background up a little bit more. Let's see how much I can do that. Quite a bit, actually, it turns out. There we go. All right. And thanks for the follow, Boo. Appreciate it. Thank you for hanging out here, and I encourage you to come back and hang out again. Like I said, the more the merrier. The more we got, hanging out in here, the more fun it is for everybody, and certainly the more fun it is for me. I always, appreciate, talking with people as opposed to sitting here in silence working on what I'm working on. I mean, there's a time and a place for that, but this is also very nice. I think we're going to call this one just about done. I am going to find something to sign it with. I thought I had a green pen around here somewhere. This will do. So, with that, I want to thank you. I want to thank everybody. About 10 to 4 in the morning, so you're probably good. You're ending here. Yeah, that's the thing. I've got a couple of people who watch from the UK, and I always end up going live at some very inconvenient time for you guys. So I apologize for that. I'm gonna see what I can do about streaming earlier, but it's not necessarily a guarantee right this minute. We'll see what I can do. I still very much appreciate you. Very much appreciate you stopping by and hanging out. My Doom themed evening, both MF and Doctor. I want to thank everybody else who dropped in, who hit that follow button. If you're interested in when I'm going live again, and artwork past, present, and possibly future, you can also follow me. I am Epic Benjamin J on all of the social medias. That would be Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch. And you can follow me on any or all of those to find out when I'm going live and what I've done and what I'll be doing in the near future. I expect I'll be back on Tuesday. This Tuesday, probably at about 8 o'clock again, I would think. That's not a guarantee, but that seems to be where it's going for now. So I encourage you to check me out then. Hope you guys have a good rest of your Saturday. You guys, anybody who dropped by, once again, I appreciate you, and I hope to see you all again. And until then, never, ever, ever stop making friends through art. Very important. That's something that I always hope to impart to anybody who drops by and watches any of this. This is for making friends through art. So let's continue to do that. Never stop making friends through art. And until I see you all again, everybody, please remember, stay safe, laugh hard, ride fast, be kind.